you very much. Thank you very much, Sister Deborah, for the introduction and for giving me this opportunity to explore something I needed to explore many times when we accept an invitation to do a teaching or a presentation. We're the ones that get the most benefit out of it. But as has been announced, I'm going to introduce and kind of give you a little background on the sacred name of God in Hebrew. And it involves several roots, apostrophe, yud. He is a, like the H. He. Vav is a long, just like an I. And he. So it's yud, he, vav, he. Now, if you're pronouncing it, or at least saying those letters, you're actually not saying pronouncing, because you'll notice we don't use vowels. So yud, when you say it, it's on the in-breath. The inhale, yud, he, out, vav, in, he, out. I just heard this week when I was discussing the reading that is the essence, the breath, the in and out breath of being. And so in that name, you already have, and I know many of us in meditation use the breathing in and breathing out focus, but that's actually a primal part of the name of God. Now, on one day a year, and it happens to be the Day of Atonement on Yom Kippur, in the Holy of Holies, the high priest would pronounce God's intimate personal name. That was obviously more than 2,000 years ago. Since then, we have stopped using that, the true pronunciation, and it is completely lost. We do not know how to pronounce God's name. We have forgotten how to say the most powerful and sacred name of God ever revealed to us. It's a loss. Instead, we, as I said, pronounce the 4 letters of the tetragrammaton as we call it Adonai. Adonai. And that's not at all what the letters say, and ascribe the same respect to it as if it were actually speaking God's name. So we Jews are so accustomed to not knowing God's name that the fact we forgot it is no longer startling to us. So the exclusive use of Yud He Vav He by the high priest didn't begin until the Second Temple period. Since the death of Shimon the Tzaddik, meaning Shimon the righteous, they stopped blessing in the name. In other words, before the time of the high priest Shimon the Just, about 300 before the Common Era, priests blessed the people speaking the Tetragrammaton, and legend says that to this day, this is, of course, I think, some of our great ability to hope. There are a few Jews in every generation who know the precise pronunciation. It's like we hope that it's still out there. Now, translating Adonai is a challenge. It's a problem because any translation from any language, as you know, doesn't really take in the full feeling and meaning from one language to another. As I said, it appears without vowels, and the entire Torah is without vowels. So think about how that affects translation. So in some contexts in English text, the word Hashem is used. So you've got the ha, and then, or eternal, the eternal one. While other translations, Lord. And we also use, as I say, Adonai. So we've got all these other names. Now, the tetragrammaton, I'm having problems with all those vowels, ends with a he, which can indicate a feminine noun. The tetragrammaton ends with a he, so we have the feminine aspect of God is indicated in that he ending. And it first appears in the Torah in Genesis when Adam is created. So I'd like to share with you some of the rabbis' interpretations of Yud He Vav He. The most obvious advantage of knowing these is that since it's God's sacred name, it provides us with a direct link to the divine. Now, as I said, it's forbidden to pronounce this name in any form whatsoever, because it's linked to every spiritual level. But it can be used as a ladder for us through which we can link with higher spiritual levels. So we're going to use this contemplation when we do our meditation. It'll be written on a sheet that will be shown on a share that Sister Deborah will put up when we're ready for the contemplation, so that you can see it easily. And in order to have some understanding, some idea of the meaning of the four letters, I've gone through, they have special significance. Each of these letters has special significance. So the yud, we will start with that little apostrophe that starts, it's very tiny. And in one interpretation, it contains the mystery of charity. So the first letter denotes a coin, a little coin. I don't know if any of you have seen the widow's mite that the widow can give. It's very, very tiny. And it's small and simple. So that yud is small and simple, like a coin. The second letter denotes the hand that gives the coin. Every letter in the Hebrew alphabet represents a number. He is the fifth letter of the alphabet. So it has a value of 5. The 5 of He includes the 5 fingers of the hand. Then the third letter, which is, like I said, an I, a total vertical, Vav, denotes the arm reaching out to give. This is an arm. Furthermore, in Hebrew, the word Vav denotes a hook. It's a conjunction. It means and. So it's represented by the letter Vav prefixed to a word, and so-and-so. So I wanted you to know that you have this charity, this hand and arm reaching out to give. Then the final letter, the final K, is the hand of this beggar who accepts the coin. So see the connection? The Vav is in between, and so it connects the two He's, the hand reaching out and the two hands reaching out, one to give and one to receive. So obviously this is the essence of charity on a mundane level. However, it can be understood on a divine level. The greatest possible act of charity is that act through which God gives to us existence. The greatest charity that God gives is existence itself. We can't demand it of God. We have no claim to existence without that gift. It was an act of charity to give us existence. So therefore, when God gives us existence, it's in that, it's visualized in that Yud, He, Vav, He. Existence being the Yud, being the little half circle apostrophe. So the 4 letters represent the mystery of the creative link between God and human. Now, here again, we have, I want to go through that in detail. The Yud, we know, represents the coin, but this time it's existence itself. It's not a piece of copper or silver, it's existence. And the Yud is the 10th letter of the Hebrew alphabet. So it has a numerical value of 10. So, if you know it, according to the Kabbalists, it alludes to the 10 sayings of creation. And it's not only found in the Torah, it's found in the Talmud, and it's really not a mystical teaching. In the account of the creation in Genesis, and we all know this, we've read it many times, the expression, "and God said," happens 10 times. And God said. These are the 10 sayings. These sayings represent the entire act of creation and represent the coin of existence that God gives us. So there you have the Yud sitting there out by itself, a little thing, but it's the entire creation. And you can guess that the He, the next letter, is then God's hand, which holds out the existence God gives to each of us and gives to the world. The Vav is God's arm. Of course, this is anthropomorphizing God, okay? But that's what we use for metaphor to give us existence. And then the last is our hand, our arm, reaching out to accept existence. The interesting thing is God must even give us our hand. So it's an interesting juxtaposition of creation giving all parts of this. So when you gaze at that tetragrammaton, you can see this. You begin by contemplating the yud, and it's like a dot. It's almost like a dot. And you see it as the initial point of creation, the 10 sayings. And like I say, they're sayings. It is all about the word, the sayings that brought creation into existence out of nothingness. And then when you contemplate the Chay, this is the level of the divine at which a vessel comes into existence to hold the abstract power of creation. So here we have a vessel, whether it's an arm or some vessel. One sees God holding the power of creation so as to give it to us. The opening, and I'll show you when we get there, the Chay, and I'm just going to do it this way, has a horizontal line at the top, a vertical line, and then over at the side, it has just a short vertical line. So there's a little opening in between. It's not a closed entity. It's the channel from God. While the opening at the bottom, because there's no closure at the bottom, is the channel to us below. The Chay is thus seen as a 5-fingered hand, and as a channel for the forces of creation. So that Chay is a channel that you go through. Then when you contemplate the Vav, the vertical, here we see God's power reaching out to us, wanting to give. But the most important letter is the final Chay. This is our hand into which we receive what God is ready to give us. It's our ability to receive from God. So the connection between the Vav and the Chay is important. This is the connection between God and the receiver, us, or all of creation. Unless this connection is made, unless that connection is made between the two Chays, then we cannot receive anything from God. So in the Talmud and Kabbalah, the letters of the Hebrew alphabet are seen as having tremendous spiritual power. If you remember, there's an artist in the book of in the Torah. The architect of the tabernacle's name was Bezalel. And this is in Exodus. And it said, the Talmud says, now this is commentary on the Torah. Bezalel knew how to combine the letters through which heaven and earth were created. Since the world was created with 10 sayings, So it's both all of this. The sayings consist of letters, and the letters are seen as the primary ingredient of creation. So when we look at the Tetragrammaton, the letters serve as a means through which a person connects themselves to God and the creative process. Now, there's another way of looking at these four letters. The first two letters, Yud and He, could be seen as the masculine force of creation. And the last two letters, the Vav and the He, could represent the masculine and feminine forces of divine providence. So we have creation and providence. So if we're going to look at it that way, we start with the Yud, and as we said, the 10 sayings of creation. This is the seed of creation. That little Yud is the seed of creation, the masculine element. This seed must be placed in the womb of creation, which is the He, before it can be brought into fruition. So the He represents both a hand and a womb, safety, protection. Both have the connotation of holding, although obviously the symbolism is different. Now, the last two letters, the Vav and the He, represent both masculine and feminine powers of divine providence. Now, that denotes the power through which God directs the world. So here the Vav, meaning the straight vertical line, represents the seed of providence, the initial impetus that comes from God. In a sense, it is God's arm of creation, reaching out to direct the world God created. And then the final He, the name of the name, is the hand with which we accept God's providence. This can be seen as the womb that holds the forces of providence. Once again, the small opening at the top of the He is the opening through which the seed enters, while the large opening is where the child emerges. Of course, the forces of creation can never be separated because the world wouldn't exist if they were separated. So the forces of providence, on the other hand, can be separated. Now think about that. The forces of creation can never be separated. That first Yud He, or we wouldn't have creation. But then the forces of providence, as when God turns God's face away from the world, or I would say, we turn our faces away from God. So when the masculine and feminine forces of providence are separated, the Vav in the name is separated from the final He. In this particular meditation on the Tetragrammaton, one can unite the Vav and the final He. So we are in that uniting, bringing unification. It serves to open the person to the forces of providence and make the person aware of divine guidance in their lives. Since the He is the hand through which we receive from God, uniting it with the Vav makes a person more aware of divine presence. So as we almost are there to going to our meditation, as you gaze at the name of God written on the screen in this case, and you can write this on a card at home and have it so that you can look at it for other meditation times. Notice that the black of the writing becomes blacker, while the white of the card becomes whiter. And then one perceives the name as being written with black fire on white fire. It is significant to note that according to Midrash, which the primeval Torah was written in this manner, as black fire on white fire. So after you've been involved in this form of meditation for a period of time, the fire begins to burn the name of God into your mind so that you can easily visualize it without the card. And this is, we know, as visualization, another important technique for meditation. Now, in order to set us up, I've given you a lot of information, but I want you to just kind of refresh back to the first, which was charity in the simple sense, then divine charity of God's hand and our hand. But then the more, what I would call complex, is how the creation of the world in the giving and that creative power, and then the divine providence in the second part, the He, the Vav and the He, so that you're eventually getting to a level of, it's not nothingness, it's connection, it's being. And in order to bring that, as some of you know, in my last session, I used a poet's poem for some of our meditations on the past, on the present, on the future. Well, I'm going to once again refer to Alden Solovey in his new book, which is These Words, Poetic Midrash on the Language of Torah. And he is talking about the name of God, Adonai, God, Yud He Vav He. The letters Yud He Vav He comprise the past, the present, and the future tenses of the verb to be. Haya is past, was. Chove is present. And Yiheh will be. God encompasses all of time simultaneously, therefore transcending time. Now, transcending time is awfully hard for humans to take in, but I want to share this poem that he created on God's name, the secret name. Above time, below time, beyond time, within time, all of time, at the same time, timeless, without time, sustaining time with mercy. Do you miss hearing your name in the prayers of your people? Or are you waiting for those who have surrendered your invitation to know you by name, to return and to call out to you in blessing with love? Are you waiting? Perhaps you whisper your name to us in dreams. Perhaps you have also forgotten. Or perhaps you are simply waiting for us to ask. So now I will ask Sister Deborah to share with us the screen. And there you have it, the Yud, the Che, the Vav, and the Che. Now you notice I'm reading from right to left, not left to right. That is Hebrew. Hebrew reads differently from English. It reads right to left. So we will start 20 minutes. And I realize many of us like to close our eyes. And you can eventually do that, but I'd like you at the very beginning to just focus on the page, on the screen, and look at each of the, and just keep your gaze really tight into that, so that that image, as I said earlier, will be like black fire on white fire. And then gradually you will be able to see it in your mind's eye, in your mind's eye. But it may take a little while. So if you would be comfortable, you know, in our seating, and I will ask Sister Deborah to set the clock for 20 minutes. We are now at 8:07, and we will start. I'm going to turn off my visual.
Shalom.
If anybody would like to give their experience or share their experience during that meditation, please feel free to turn off your mute and turn on your camera and share what you thought or didn't think or saw or didn't see or where it took you.
Annabelle, this is Dana.
Yeah.
I would just think speechless.
Isn't that interesting? Words made you speechless.
Yeah.
Debbie.
I was struck by just the complexity of it, the bigness of it, and could only just with that first letter. I mean, when I started to pray, it was like, just stay with that first letter. Just stay with creation. Stay with the seed. Stay with the start. So obviously there's a lot more that God has to reveal in that. But
Yes.
For now, that was, and as I was listening to you, it's interesting how our mind, tries to connect and bring the unity together. And I was thinking of Michelangelo's creation of Adam. And that is the hand to the hand in the very beginning. So, thank you. Thank you so much for that beautiful teaching.
We also have a sharing on the chat by Egath, Gentleness and Divine Power. Did anyone, as you were gazing on the words, on the letters rather, did any of you see the white fire? It's an interesting, and I realize it's our eyes and how they operate. But if you just guessed on the tetragrammaton for, trying an extended period of time without blinking, you're going to see a blaze of white coming out of the black letters, a blaze of white. And then what I did was I would then, if I'd stayed in that place long enough, I would close my eyes and those letters are all there reflected in my mind. Now, I've got to tell you, I've never done this meditation before. So, I'm not saying it's because I've been practicing. I'm just saying that, and of course, what happens is then the letters actually in your mind become white. They're transposed like a negative. So they're not black anymore. So it was just, that was interesting to me. And I realized, you know, you could say, oh, it's all about vision and optics and all that, but still that brings those letters and the traces of the letters inside. And it's kind of stamping those letters inside you. So there, you know, a lot of different ways, as Debbie said, just focusing on the first, the yud, the seed, the creation. And then if you want to go to the hey, you're talking about, you know, the how incoming into the world and connecting, creating, bringing that seed into the world and creating. There's just so much there you can play with and work with, and no telling what aha moments you will have from that days, weeks later. Thank you very much.
There are few words to thank you enough. This was so rich. I found myself just thinking, she has gifted us with so much. Even though we don't have the mornings with sacred silence for a few months, we have plenty in your kitchen today. So we can't thank you enough, Annabelle. It was just not only powerful, but so rich. So thank you all for joining us. Again, we did record this, so we'll put it on our YouTube channel and make it available. I also know well enough to know folks might really enjoy having a copy of the poem. So if you would like
I'll
to
send it to you.
Then I can send that on to the participants today. So again, thank you everyone, and our deepest thanks to you, Annabelle.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Have a wonderful day.
Bye.